Alright, thank you for joining us today. This video is brought to you by the StreamingAdvisor.com. Tailor your entertainment with streaming. And what we're going to do here is unbox the new Roku Ultra and show you what you get inside. And then we're going to demonstrate it for all the world to see. And we're open. First off, you get a little guide. It's nice. It will show you everything you need to know about setting up the Roku Ultra. It's not a bad little fold-out, to tell you the truth. Pretty much everything you need to know is right there, bit by bit. For the most part, setting up a Roku Ultra only involves plugging in your HDMI and connecting to your network one way or the other. Here is the Roku itself. It's a nice box. It's a good solid. It's got the button here for your controller finding, which is one of the best features I've ever seen on a device, finding the lost controller. You've got a network port. You got an HDMI port. You got obviously the power jack. And on the side you have a USB port that's there so that you can put your own media on the device and be able to get it going. So we'll put that right there and keep on going. The controller is a great little controller. This is the new Roku Ultra, so it's got the cool new feature of being able to control the power on your TV, as well as you can control the volume on your TV with the volume section. It's like other controllers. It has quick launch buttons that are in place so that you can jump straight to a couple of popular programs. I think that's the summation of the biggest ones right now outside of Amazon. Your microphone button here is what operates the voice search. The button here, the little asterisk, is basically a settings button. You got your playback, and if you're doing games, it has a couple of game choices there. Very important, the home button, which looks like a house, and back. Right here, this little section here is the microphone, that little hole. And you want to remember, like I said in the other video, that if you're getting the Roku Ultra and you want the new Roku Ultra for 2017, you want to look at where it says new voice remote and buttons for power and TV volume. That makes all the difference in the world. Not that the old Roku Ultra was a bad product, but if you want the new one, just make sure you get it. Inside the box, you've got pretty much everything necessary to get started. You got batteries for the remote. You have, obviously, a power cord, because how would you plug it in? You have little headphone squishies for your ears, and the popular remote earphones for the earphone jack on the remote. You can also use them with your phone, anything else you have. And I think that is all that's in the box. So we're good to go. And we're going to get this hooked up to your system. But just in review, you get batteries, you get the remote, you get the headphones, you get the Roku Ultra, and you get headphone holders and the power cord. And that's it. It's pretty basic. It doesn't come with an HDMI cord, so you will have to provide that for yourself. But overall, it's a good little collection of stuff. It's always nice when you get the batteries. And that's that. So let's show you what the Roku Ultra is going to look like all hooked up.
Okay, so we are all set. We are set up with our Roku. Now I'll let you know, because I have a ton of Roku channels, it took some time for it to load. That's because it had to install every single one of my channels. And you see it's got 334 channels. So, like I said, it took a bit of time. What Roku does is it gets you all set up with everything you need to know as far as all of your channels. It puts it all into place for you instead of like having it go in through something like Cloudbase. Now, something I want to show you is that Roku gets you going with their new operating system and new devices with this Roku streaming player intro. As you see, it says to avoid reloading channels, use a micro SD card. That's something that you can go pick up in pretty much anywhere. Just make sure it's little. The micro SD slot is on your Roku. I didn't point it out in the unboxing, but it's on the back. Just a little slot, and you just use that to help your device basically add more RAM, more space. It's complicated and simple all at the same time, and I'm not going to get into all the technical explanations of it. But when you jump into the Roku streaming player intro, it's going to give you a feel for what the Roku is, how it actually works, and I think that that's a really nice feature, because if you're new to it, it's going to be one of the only channels installed on your device. So you can use this to learn the layout, learn what the buttons do, and just get a good feel for things right away. So I like that, especially this is a great thing for brand new Roku users. So we're going to get out of that, because I'm going to show you how this works anyway. But just know, when you install a new Roku, you're going to get that, the getting started, and that's a really cool feature. So, if you are new to Roku, here's some things you need to know about it. Roku is a very open platform. You can add tons and tons of channels, and one of the good things about Roku is that a lot of the streaming services that launch, they want to be on Roku very quickly, because Roku has more streaming customers than any other product out there, more than Apple, more than Amazon, more than Android. So that's a big deal. There's also a lot of really independent kinds of channels that you're going to find. So like this, Just the Story. Well, let's see, we got this Anomalies channel. I mean, a lot of just random stuff out there with some interesting content is available on Roku and nowhere else. So if you're wondering, which one's the better one, for simplicity and variety, Roku is a really good one for you. The layout of the screen is meant to be as simple as possible. Roku pushes simplicity. As you see, all of your main controls are over on the left, and all of the channels that you have installed are on the right. If you don't have a lot of channels, you won't have a lot to scroll through. We've got a ton of channels. Little bit about these different choices. Home is always going to be this, and you can always get back to it by pressing the button in the right hand corner that looks like a house. Very convenient for that to be the home. Feed is something that you set up if you want to follow specific things. You can go in and set it up so that you'll know when is something available for rent or to watch. Mr. Holmes is a neat little Sherlock Holmes as an older man movie. I added that to the feed when it was brand new, and now I know that I can watch it with Prime or Hulu or Epix, depending on what you got. The movie store thing you see here is through Fandango. Fandango's got an on-demand movie catalog and on-demand TV shows, actually. And Roku sets up with this on the starting page. You can remove it, but if you like, you can keep the TV store and the movie store in place. And if you don't have cable, it's a really cool way to find out what all is worth seeing. You can jump in. American Gods is a really interesting series, and you can get the entire series. Boom, season 1. Buy it, watch it, and then you don't have to have stars. You have to pay $13. You got the biggest series they've got. And that goes for any of these. Westworld, same thing. Maybe you don't want HBO, but you really wanted to see Westworld. $27.99, you purchase it with Fandango, you got it. Though, with things like Roku and OTT, the cool thing is that you can always sign up for a service, watch everything you want, and then drop it. But that's just a little bit about Fandango now, because that's not the focus of this video. News, which is set up automatically is the AOL on, and it breaks things down into numerous categories, and you get quick video clips based on the subject. You just launch it, you go into it. It's not totally in-depth, it's not full episodes of anything, but it can give you a pretty good idea of what's happening in the world real quickly. Now, search is when you start getting into some really unique stuff about Roku. Lots of devices have something along these lines, but Roku has always sort of been the most democratic and expansive of the search things. You notice down at the bottom it says Roku will search multiple channels, and boy does it ever. They have expanded this to include many. I mean, look at the choices that you've got down. I've never heard of the True Word Network, and I know a lot about streaming channels, decent movies. Kind of setting the bar low there. But what you've got here is a way to, you just put in a title. It can be, let's just try something like Little Shop of Horrors. I haven't even, like, where is that available though? The little musical, Little Shop. Okay. Can't sing it too much, or else I might be breaking a, what's it called? Copyright law. Okay, Little Shop of Horrors. Okay, there we are. Color. There we are. So where is this available? OV Guide, Hulu, for rent on Amazon, for rent on Vudu, rent on Google Play. So you want to see Little Shop of Horrors with Rick Moranis, Suddenly Seymour? You can watch it for free with the OV Guide without ever having to pay for Hulu. And that goes the same for lots of things. I've never heard of the Little Shop of Gypsies. What's that on? Apparently nothing right now. Little Shop of Horrors original, it's free on Sci-Fi Classics channel, Sci-Fi Comedy channel, the Movie Classics, the Thriller Classics. See, these are all like small indie channels that are on Roku, but not necessarily on anybody else, because it's really easy for developers to make channels for Roku. I'll give you a sort of feel for that in just a second. And that's going to be in the streaming channels. Roku has pretty much the best way to search for streaming channels and options. It's, everybody's got some form of a store, but Roku breaks it down into a pretty easy to understand group of categories, and then there you go. So there are 327 music channels, and it will continue to grow. This is everything from major music services like Pandora or Spotify to just little things like a local radio station, or a country station from Colorado. Who knows? You jump in, you download it, you add it, and then it's yours. You can listen to things anytime you want. But what you'll find is when you go to these channels like this, the top ones are always going to be at the top. So, most people have heard of Pandora, iHeartRadio, Vivo, TuneIn, things like that. And as things rise in popularity, they rise on this list. So at the bottom of this list is going to be things that you might have never heard of unless you happen to be from the area where they were based. And that's fine, because you've got a lot of choice. It's like tuning in everything. Games on Roku are real basic. Things like, Tetris, for instance. I mean, there's, you jump in. It's not something where you're not going to buy a Roku and say, wow, I don't need a PlayStation 4. I've got a Roku to play all my video games. The games on Roku are typically just time killers. And it looks like we're struggling a little bit as far as adding channels right now. My internet might not be playing well with my devices right now. I'll just back out of that. I've got a couple of games on here already. I thought I had Tetris, to tell you the truth. But Roku's games are much more about kind of killing time, something for the kids to do while it's raining, things like that. This isn't a gaming device, and it doesn't pretend to be. But if you look at it, you've got a lot of, little puzzle games and things like that, maze. I mean, it's just not their priority. But you can play them, and I have. I like things like 4 in a row. I've always liked Connect 4. But it's dismissible the apps section is where you're going to find everything like DVR apps and things to allow you to mirror devices and things like that. It's got all kinds of different choices. You never know. There's some real gems in there. And then your things break down by genre. So you've got a very expansive app store or channel store, depending on what you want to call it. Roku basically calls all of their apps channels. Makes it feel better for a traditional TV user. You can see all the different categories. Roku's got something, I think about 6,000 channels now. So, that's just a little bit about sort of how Roku works, if you're not familiar with it. In general, this being the Roku Ultra, the brand new Roku Ultra, there's some really cool new features. For one, you're not going to be able to notice, but I can control my TV volume with this remote. The setup for that is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. It took about 25 seconds. It asks you, if you can hear some music. You say yes or no. And then it just gets you to look into what kind of TV you got. So you're going to need to know what kind of television you've got. Once it can figure that out, it will program your remote to power it on and off and control the volume. And that is a really cool thing. Roku's not the very first device to do anything like that, but it is the first to make it as simple as it is. Something that I really thought was cool about it is my television is a 6K TV, and it's not an advanced one. It's not a smart TV. It's not like a super stereo TV. It's not a 4K TV. It's about 5 or 6 years old now. It was just a nice, solid HD TV, and it didn't have any trouble finding a way to program it. So you don't necessarily need the brand new TVs for this to work. I'm going to do a completely separate video just on that so that you can see how that works. Something nice about the new operating system is the amount of different ways you can do your choices and access important features. Themes are pretty basic. You just change. They're just basically a change in the look. We're going to change to decaf. I guess it's going to be brown and white or something along those lines. But a lot of people like that because maybe their personality isn't necessarily the purple. I'm going to go to Nebula. I think Nebula is pretty. And we'll stick with that for the rest of the demo. Again, I have my Roku plugged into the network. This is a fast device, but it's just having a little trouble moving quickly here. So we've got that. You can change to featured themes, and and if you want a featured theme, you have to make sure that check mark is there. You can set up cool screensavers. I've got one that's like aquatic life. That's like fishies. And so, but you can do all sorts of different things for that. You can make your TV, show you beautiful pictures or, digital animals. There's all kinds of different things. Like I said, that's not unique to Roku, but that's just something that it can do. Roku Ultra is capable of doing 4K. Our TV can't, but it's going to auto-detect whatever your TV can do the best. So if you're only at 720, it's going to set you up for 720, and so on. Ours happens to be at 1080p. Captions are really important, and you can do that through the accessibility menu. You can go ahead, you can turn it on so that it's always there. And once you're in captions, you can set your language, and it's got a lot of different choices. The main strong European ones, as well as others. So, looks like we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So 18 languages. I imagine there's a language setting for everywhere that Roku is sold. And once you get into your closed captioning, you can control how big, what color it is, all of that. Background, whether it's blocked in or not. So that's really great for people who need that sort of attention. It really is. So I really like that. You can control how loud the little clicks and chirps on the Roku are from this. And you can also even set up shortcuts for the audio guide. So you can do that so you can get straight there from the home screen. So I really like that. Finding the remote is cool. I showed you the button in the unboxing. You press the button, it will find the remote for you. It'll beep, 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 beep. It beeps. It's so cool. Like I can see if it'll go for me in this menu. If I can just press the button here. You hear that? That's finding the remote. There's nothing more frustrating than not being able to find the remote, right? You can set up different sounds for it. So that you can, hear different versions of what it will sound like. And in general, you can just set up everything and customize it. Like from the home screen, you can go in and you can turn off that movie store. You can turn off the news. Kind of helps you clear things up if you like. You can control what sort of ad tracking you have, and that might be important to you. So in general, this is a very customizable, but it's kind of simple computer. All of these things are really computers. See, now the home screen doesn't have the advertising and stuff like that. It doesn't have the news and the movies and things like that. As far as its channels go, as you keep your system updated, you're going to get the most updated version of any given app. That's just determined by when they release it to Roku. But it's going to have the most current Netflix. It has the most current Amazon Video app, as should be expected by a brand new product. I really like the Amazon Video app. I think it's very pretty. Reminds me of the old Amazon Fire TV. It doesn't look like this anymore. This also runs, like it or not, the newest Hulu version. There's been a lot of mixed reaction to the new Hulu, and gotta say, a lot of it's very negative. It's more colorful, fancier, but is it more user-friendly? I'm not so sure. But that's a little bit. Before we go, let me just show you something real basic. I'm just going to start something. Let's just test how quickly a show or movie will start. So we're going to go into Netflix. I'm going to choose my profile. And we'll just launch Sherlock. And it starts. Bang. So, you can see, with the right kind of network connection, you're not going to have any trouble jumping into the things that you really want to see. So this is hopefully scraping the surface of what a Roku can do for you. All of these channels were added either from the channel store or via private channels. They are really cool things. There's a lot to see. And that is the Roku Ultra. Very powerful quad-core device. Lots of great features. But remember, like I said in the video, look for where it says new controller for volume and power. That makes all the difference in the world. Not that there's anything wrong with the old Roku Ultra, but it's just not the new Roku Ultra. And I'm going to tell you something. Anybody who ran out and bought the Roku Premiere or something like that because it was on sale because of the new products might just regret it. Because I think that the ability to turn a TV on and off and control the volume is a pretty game-changing as far as the Roku world goes, because it makes the Roku box hooked to a TV work almost like the actual Roku TVs do. So, that's that. I hope you found that helpful. If you did, please subscribe. Please share this video with your friends. And as always, I'm Ryan Downey, the Streaming Advisor. Stream on, my friends.